Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the November 3rd meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Please note that this meeting is conducted as authorized by Governor Kathy Hochul per New York State emergency legislation, which allows public meetings to be held virtually. Let me first welcome our brand new board member, Rob Waters. Rob's been an alternate for some time now as an alternate planning board member. He's participated many times with us. He's replacing Mr. Pickett, who we said farewell to at our last meeting. Let me first, before we start, confirm that each member is alone or without anyone around you trying to unduly influence your vote or opinion. Mr. Waters?
Yeah.
Ms. Weiser?
I'm alone.
Ms. Wasser?
I'm alone.
Ms. Dexter?
I'm alone.
Mr. Oliver?
I'm alone.
And I guess I should go ahead and do this for our other alternate, Ms. Kane.
Yes, I'm alone.
Thank you. Let me first lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Trust me, I'm alone too,
Oh,
Diane.
Ms. Napoli, I skipped you, sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is a new public hearing for Key Construction. This is an application for office and storage units located at 1234 Route 9G. I'm recused in this application, so I'm leaving. And Ms. Kane will take my place. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Dupree. Thank you, Tori, for stopping in. Kelly, you can unmute and join Amy. And I don't know if you have other people with you, but.
Good evening. It's just the two of us.
Okay, great.
I want to sing a song. Would it be okay if I share my screen?
go for it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Try to get this larger so that you can see it. All righty. Would you like me to start?
Absolutely, go for it.
Okay. So Kelly Leibolt representing the applicant, which is Key Interior. Again, many of you know the components of this project, but for purposes of the public hearing, I'll just do a brief overview. The property is located at 12349 9G. Most of us Hyde Parkians know that it was the former 9G drive-in. It's a 17.2 acre parcel located in the East Park Business District. Has an existing ingress egress, and we are proposing to relocate the applicant's office. Let me see if I can just do this so you can see this a little bit better. There, that's better. Proposing to relocate the applicant's office to the property, and also proposing 2 buildings, which would be contractor storage facility, and then 5 buildings, which would be the conventional self-storage that we often see driving up and down the road, just the 1 story with the garage self-storage. There are 33 plus parking spaces, and we say 33 because some of these are marked and some of these are not marked using the protocol that the town has instituted before with other self-storage facilities. We are going to use the existing ingress egress, which is located on 9G, of course, subject to any changes or improvements that the New York State Department of Transportation and this planning board has. We are proposing to develop 5.6 acres of the 17.2 acres. The balance of the site is predominantly wetlands and then the wetland buffer. We had to kind of make this presentation. It looks a little bit disjointed, but because this project is so long, each of the plans that you have before you, the paper plans, there's 2 sheets. So one sheet is the driveway and the other sheet is the development in the back. So that's why these images look a little disjointed. We try to put them together in one view. This is just a blow up of the application. And what we're showing here is just this area here, which I'm circling, is the proposed office building. The area in the back, the larger buildings, are the proposed contractor storage buildings. And then the 5 buildings on the bottom are the proposed conventional self-storage facilities. We have identified snow storage area on this plan as well. As far as the wetland buffer impacts, we have been in great contact with New York State DEC. They've visited the site, confirmed the wetland delineation, and we've submitted the necessary permit applications to DEC for the impacts to the buffer, so the wetland buffer. The existing driveway actually has an impact to the wetland buffer, and it's there, so that's obviously an as-of-right use, and that's shown in this red hatched area. And what we're proposing is to grade the driveway so it's properly, width that can support vehicles back and forth, and that will result in grading in the wetland buffer. And so that's shown in this blue area. So the existing driveway is 0.09 acres in the buffer, and then the total with the existing plus the proposed would be 0.38 acres of disturbance in the buffer. All of these drawings have accompanied the permit application that's been submitted to DEC. This is just a summary chart that's on the site plan, showing the bulk requirements for the site. There is an area variance that we will need to seek from the Zoning Board of Appeals for scale. So the permitted scale, it's very hard to read this. I'm sorry, it didn't copy well when I converted it, but the permitted scale is 40,000 square feet, and we're proposing 64,000 and change square feet. Previous to tonight, that scale number was actually smaller. I'm just going to go back on a slide so I can explain to you why. We converted this area, that was gravel, and we wanted to take that into consideration for the scale. So when we added that to the overall number, it just increased the scale for the overall project. And this is the scale drawing that was provided. Sorry, there's a typo here. It's actually 64,000, not 84,000. So this was provided as well to the town and will accompany the area variance application to the ZBA. Landscaping. So we did complete a field visit with members of the planning board and the consultants, unofficial meeting. And we did discuss that there were 3 cottonwood trees when we walked in the property that the board and the consultants deemed to need to be preserved. And when we actually designed the driveway and we graded the driveway, unfortunately, 2 of the cottonwood trees are on direct opposite sides of the driveway. And the grading is going to result in one or the other of the trees, unfortunately, to have to be removed. So of the 3 cottonwood trees, we picked the smallest one, would have to be removed. We are proposing 36 new trees, 147 shrubs, and excessive amounts of grasses and perennials. We can certainly talk to the board about the trees that we're planting and make sure that they're comfortable with those. And if we are able to replace a cottonwood, we're happy to do so. We did provide the plant list for the board to review, and we're happy to go through those with you. Site grading is fairly de minimis. I'm sure that Pete will take the time to review the grading plan. As most of you know, it's fairly flat, as evidenced from the site walk. Most of the grading is to provide the areas for the storm drainage basins. As far as utilities are concerned, the project will utilize a proposed well, which is located here where I'm circling, and a proposed on-site septic system, which will provide sanitary for the office only. We're not providing any potable water or bathrooms for the storage facilities. So the only utilities required are for the office building. We did provide a complete lighting plan. Impossible to read on these, PowerPoint presentations, but we believe it complies with the town's requirements. We provided the details for the lights. They're all night sky compliant. So we believe that they meet the criteria for the town's code. Just a kind of a summary of where we are, because there's been a lot of comments back and forth. So we have received comments from the following agencies. New York State DEC, we've talked about. We did receive the initial permit jurisdiction comment letter, and then we have submitted the necessary permits to DEC. Dutchess County Planning we did receive, and I believe it was a matter of local concern. We have the engineering comments from Pete's office and the SWIP comments from Pete's office. The comments from your planner, which all of these were addressing. comments from Roosevelt Fire Department, in essence, they were in agreement with the site plan. No changes were required as far as their comments were concerned. We received the comments from the CAC, which we're addressing in our next submission to you. And just yesterday, we did receive comments from New York State DOT indicating that they have no issues with the current, with the use of the existing driveway access, of course, subject to DOT review and approval. So we're gathering and putting together the more detailed plans that the DOT requires. As far as the elevations are concerned, we try to do a consistent theme through all of the different buildings because you do have varying uses here. We try to use earth tone materials. So we've got metal building and cultured stone. It's hard to tell. I don't know why it does this from this elevation, but they're really more towards the gray scale, but they come out on the brown scale. But this would be the elevations for the office building. These would be elevations for the smaller storage facilities, the 5 buildings. And I guess I'm sorry. I thought that's the elevation for the larger buildings. My apologies. And then these are the elevations for the smaller self-storage buildings. So that really completes our presentation. I'll just kind of end here. If the board has any questions, the public has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you so much, Kelly. That was a really nice comprehensive overview.
Thank you.
I especially appreciate you detailing who we've heard from. At this point, are we missing anybody's comments?
No, the only comments that we would like to get back, so that in my opinion, and I'm sure Bonnie and Pete would agree, and Victoria, is just the final comments back from DEC on the permit application that we submitted. So we're really hoping, we're expecting to address the outstanding comments, which is the SWIP comments and the CAC comments, and then any DEC comments, and submit for the November, I think, 16th submission. And at that point, I believe we will have addressed all of the comments that we've received, and hopefully at that point can address seeker at that time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm just trying, so because we need to conclude seeker in order for you to get your variances from the ZBA.
Correct.
Is there anything else that you need from the ZBA other than the area variance for scale?
I believe that's it. We did receive some communication from Tad Moss, and she had indicated that that was the variance that was needed. And we are going to submit that application, and we'll get it before the ZBA. And hopefully we can get a preliminary meeting with them, and then thereafter conclude seeker with the planning board, and then hopefully conclude the ZBA, and then back to the planning board. It's a little bit back and forth.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
It would be great if we had DEC's comments today. I don't personally foresee an issue because we've met with them initially, and then we met with them again, and then submitted the permit application. But of course, I'm sure the town would like some documentation.
Well, I think we're going to need that, right?
Yeah.
Victoria?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only one I was just wondering about is, are you going to need a variance for any disturbances in the buffer areas?
I don't believe that we need a variance from the town unless someone advises otherwise. I believe the only permit that we need is from the DEC for the impacts in the buffer area. I can check with Tad, but she did give us a review of the application a few days ago and indicated that the area variance was needed for scale, but I can check with her.
I believe that if DEC issues a permit for a disturbance within 100 feet of the stream, that DEC takes control and there's no variance needed from the town. I haven't seen that application, so I don't know where you've applied for your approvals from DEC within the buffer, so I don't know if it relates to part of a stream.
Do you want us to send you a copy of that, Tad?
That would be nice. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, because I just would hate to see you get to the ZBA and then find out that you
Yeah. Yes. Agree.
do it once and get it done with.
Agree.
Okay, great.
Okay. We'll send that over.
All right, so let's get our comments from the consultants and start with Bonnie, our planning consultant.
Evening. This application is pretty far along. And we don't really have that many comments at the point in time. I know, Kelly, you were going to submit after, once you got this new submission together.
Yes,
We're really looking to see what DEC comes back with at this point in time, because they have to verify the wetland boundary. And I think that everything's going to be keyed to that. So from our perspective.
we actually, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bonnie. We did actually get the signed verification form back from DEC today. So they did verify the wetland
Oh,
boundary.
great.
Yeah,
Okay.
We just got it today.
Oh, that's
Okay.
great.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you could send that in for, neg deck purposes, and it's, one more thing to check off the list of
Absolutely.
outstanding items.
Okay.
And then just quick, I can't recall, GML review. Did we send that out? Did we get something back?
We did. I think the county came back and said it was a matter of local concern.
Okay,
We sent it out September 13th. And then, yeah.
okay, great. Wasn't finding that right away in my subdirectory.
I don't know if I saw the county's response, but
Here,
It
I'll
was
stop
matter of
sharing
local
this screen.
concern. I think we received it August 21st. That's just off the top of my head.
It was
Perfect.
September 21st.
September 21st. There you go.
Okay. So again, I think I'll just reserve comments until we get whatever the next submission is. I'm glad to hear that DEC finally provided some response as far as the, verifying the delineation. So that's great. Thank you.
We'll send that over.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, anything that you get, just forward it over and that'll help to complete
Perfect.
the record.
Okay.
Pete,
Sure. Yeah, pretty much the same here. We'll wait till their next submission. They've got our comments. We provided comments recently on the stormwater plan. As Kelly mentioned, there was some email correspondence yesterday with Joe Taylor from the DOT. And the other thing is, I think we also received a letter from the fire department saying that they were okay with things.
Yes.
Right,
Correct.
Kelly?
Yes, correct. Their biggest concern was that they didn't want us to move the buildings in. They
Right.
wanted us to leave the buildings where they were. So
Right.
they were happy and they, signed off and sent a letter in that they were accepting the plan.
So I think we're getting pretty close to where we could make a secret determination once
Good.
we get a little more feedback from the DEC.
I think this next submission will be kind of a consolidation of all the comments. So hopefully, and any comments we get tonight from the public.
Yeah. Kelly, have you made us, or has LRC made a submission to the health department?
They are packaging that up and they are going to submit that very soon. If not this week, that's supposed to go in. Yep, we want to get that started.
Okay, good, thanks.
We'll forward you a copy of it once we submit.
Sure.
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Sotero. I appreciate that. Victoria, do you have any comments?
just to clarify, the planning board is not required to wait for DEC to provide a response. More than 30 days have passed since our seeker circulation. DEC often takes a long time to respond. However, it's the better practice to wait. I'm working on a project in another community where they did not wait for DEC. And when DEC finally did get around to responding, it caused all sorts of issues and they had to go back and redo the approval. So recommend waiting.
Okay. Well, at least we know that they're active and they have responded and they've gone out to the site. So that's good.
Yes.
We know that they're working on it. Anything else, Victoria?
Just that TAD has consistently determined that if DEC issues a permit, then the permit from the 100-foot corridors or setback is not required. So, that's consistent with past determination. So once she sees the application, she can weigh in on that.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get some board member input. Let's start on the far left there with Ann Weiser.
I have been very thorough. Thank you very much, Kelly. I have nothing to add to the conversation.
Thank you.
It's really great. Thanks.
Thank you, Ann. Let's go to our newest board member, Rob Waters.
Yes, hi Kelly. The only thing I saw was on the in your elevations,
Yes.
using the southwest elevation, it's showing like a portico over the entry.
Sure,
And then-
I can share that real quick so
Yeah.
everyone can see it.
It's a minor thing, but I don't want it to drop off the plans.
Right here.
Okay, yes, you see that over the doorway?
Yes,
I assume that's protruding out because there
Yes.
was some columns on it. It's not shown on your south east elevation or your northwest elevation.
Oh,
okay, on the plan view.
On these elevations here, yeah.
Okay,
It's on, I think there's a post on your plan view, but.
so
not
you're
on
saying the
ele-
plan view and the elevations are inconsistent?
Yeah, just,
Okay.
they just have to put that entry on the side of the, on the southeast, it would be on the left-hand side, and
Okay.
on the northwest, it would be on the right-hand side.
Okay, we'll get that.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
thank you, Robert. Any more comments?
No, not at this time.
Thanks. A little bit of housekeeping. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Oh, is that me, Ann?
Sure.
No,
No,
Yeah.
we just
Oh,
need to
I'm
open the
sorry.
public hearing, and it's asking Victoria Kane to open. it.
Yeah, so moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? From anyone?
Diane DiNapoli just motioned.
There you go. Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. Public hearing has been opened. Sorry about that. Rusty, very rusty. All right, let's move on to our Tori Kane.
I know every time you say Victoria for the consultants, I think, what?
Oh, wait. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just unusual that there are two of us in one meeting. Oh, my dog is coming to help. No, I think this was very thorough. My only question is, in earlier meetings, there was some discussion about whether or not there was adequate area for snow storage. And I was wondering what the consultants, Pete in particular, had in mind with that. Are you comfortable with the level of snow storage as it's?
Kelly, that was something that we brought up, and I don't remember whether you moved the fences back a little bit or.
Yeah, whoops, I shared the wrong thing. My apologies.
Because we
Making
brought that
everyone
up, and
busy.
we brought that up in one of our comments that there didn't appear to be a lot of area reserved for
Yeah,
that.
what we did is these areas are now hatched on the plan. So the areas for snow storage. And we always have kind of the same discussion, which is I end up being involved in these sites operationally. And so you see what these guys do, and you try to come up with areas for snow storage where you think they're going to put it. So that's what we did here. So at least even if they're plowing and they have to move snow, they have locations that they can put the snow. And so we've identified those on the plan, those two spots.
Yeah. And
So
I
we
think
can,
also,
if, go
I
ahead.
think also that the dry swales, if I'm not mistaken, were also going to be areas for snow, right?
Yes, absolutely. They're just not noted on here. Those were just additional areas, but yes, correct.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. That was my only question. Other than that, everything looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tori. Mr. Oliver, any comments?
I have no new comments, and I am excited to see this project in that location. I think it's a great space, and thank you for making the changes as needed.
Thank you.
And I know when we get the landscaping plan, both Tad and Chris will be able to give us the extra eyes we need.
Yes.
Which I'll appreciate. And Mr. Napoli, do you have comments? You're muted.
I'm sorry, no comments. That's probably the only time I'll ever be silent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so Neil, did anybody sign up? No one signed up for public hearing, did they?
No, correct.
Okay, so we have no public comment at this
No,
point.
Madam Chair, I don't have any comments either.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Wasser.
It's fine. I just didn't know if I needed to go on the record, so.
No, I
that's
appreciate,
fine.
no, please. Okay, no additional comments. Thank you. All right then. So our biggest question now, I believe, is when to adjourn this public hearing to?
I believe, I don't know if Amy's on or not, but I believe we are submitting for the on November 16th for the December hearing. That's what we're hoping to do.
Oh, okay. So when you
1
said
month?
November 16th, you meant that that's when you're going to be submitting.
Yes, that's our
Okay.
goal, is to submit on the 16th for the December meeting. So if we can adjourn this to that December meeting, really going to push DEC to try to get their comments back, even if
December 1st.
Thank you. Even if we don't have a permit, but they can at least give us comments where the document is acceptable, they just need to review, there's no additional information that's required, something to that effect, so that we can move forward. Short of that is we would ask to try to just move forward and have a conditional approval, pending DEC's permit.
Okay, that sounds acceptable.
Okay. So if we can defer to December, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Could I get a motion to adjourn this public hearing to December 1st?
So moved, Diane Tenapoli.
I'll second.
Thank you so much. Is there any discussion? Any more discussion on this? No. All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll see you again in December. And
Very well.
I think this is moving along great. And,
Yes.
if you have any more comments, you can always reach out. In the meantime, have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye, Amy.
And I have a happy Thanksgiving, Kelly.
Great. Now we just have to find Mr. Dupree.
Oh, here he comes. All right. Good night,
There he
guys.
is.
Good night.
Good night, Tori.
Thank you so much,
Tori.
Tori. Have a
Bye.
great
Thank you, Tori.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Tori, and thank you, Vice Chair Dexter.
I am very rusty. I will, you just need to know how rusty I am.
I doubt that. The next item on the agenda is Andover, 15 Andover. This is Mr. Tony NESHEIWAT's application for now an accessory apartment. They get a motion to open the continued public hearing, reopen.
So moved. Rob Waters.
Seconded, Diane Tenapoli.
All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. I believe Mr. NESHEIWAT is here tonight.
Yes, I am.
There you are.
Alright.
I know you have a little bit of a presentation, but beforehand, I just want to make sure that the public is aware of this, even though we have no one from the public signed up to speak tonight. So this application has been amended from a two-family dwelling unit into an accessory apartment. That's because, as I pointed out at our last meeting where we met with Mr. NESHEIWAT, that there's a note on the original subdivision that says that there cannot be any two-family homes. They must all say single family. Single family would encompass having an accessory apartment because single family and accessory apartment approvals require that the owner occupy the space that's bigger than the accessory apartment or live in the accessory apartment. At any rate, because there's an amended application, we'll need to adjourn this to December 1st to allow the ZBA to act on the revised application because they still need a density variance, and also to re-advertise the public hearing date for this, just so that we make sure that it's no longer for a site plan, only special use permit approval, because that's all accessory apartments require. In the interim, we had referred this to Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority out of an abundance of caution, because in our last public hearing, or initial public hearing, we heard from neighbors worried that there is a negative impact on the water quantity from the accessory apartment. So we referred this to Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority. This is the organization that runs both the sewer and the water systems, the central water systems at the site. I'm going to read the response we got from Bridget Barkley, who runs DCWWA, so it can go into the record. Good morning, Cynthia. We wish to provide the following additional comment regarding the application. The question was previously raised as to whether the Greenfields water and sewer systems have sufficient capacity to serve the accessory apartment. It is our understanding that, although not permitted, the accessory apartment has reportedly been in existence for some time. Accordingly, its demand will already be reflected in the current average daily demand for the water and sewer systems. Accordingly, DCWWA finds that there is sufficient capacity to service the accessory apartment. However, we do request that the town provide notification for any future proposed additional development within the Greenfields water and sewer district so we may evaluate the impact on the system capacity. So just pointing out that we did what we were supposed to do in taking a hard look at this. We've looked to see if there was a way they could isolate the impact of this one, I think, 30-year-old accessory apartment in the water system. And in essence, because it's already been in the system for so long, it's subsumed within their normal demand. So there are no additional capacity requirements based on if we approve this proposal. That noted, Mr. NESHEIWAT, let me turn it over to you.
Oh, that's good. That's good news. And also the project manager said that we don't need the back valve that's needed because that's for multi-dwelling. If you want to read that to them, that's fine also.
I don't have that in there, but that's also not the backflow preventer was not something that people were expressing concern about. It was more just about impacts on water. That's more of how you could potentially contaminate the water system, which is not going to happen. So
Right.
You're set.
Right. So it's good news. I did go to the ZBA, I think a week or 2 weeks ago, and they had to postpone it because there wasn't a public hearing. I did show them the presentation that I attached and gave to Cynthia, but since we're going to re-adjourn this to December 1st, I don't know if it's useful to go over that presentation now. If you want me to, I can, but we can also go over it December 1st. Just a summary of my proposal.
Board members, would you like to hear it now or wait until December?
Doesn't matter.
Can wait.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
And Tony,
Okay,
that's really up to you. Do you want to do it tonight or do you want to do it when it's a little bit more relevant, so to speak?
I have to do it twice, though. If I don't do it, I still have to do it December 1st, right?
Yes, you'll still have to give it December 1st for the new public.
Yes, because it's a public hearing that's more properly, we're just making sure that we do everything so that every I is dotted, T is crossed, you name it.
Okay, I can go over it briefly now if you want. Shouldn't take long.
Sure.
You want me to share the screen?
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Can you go to the next? Okay, so someone's controlling the slides, I guess.
Yes, that's Councilman Krupnik. Just tell them when you want the next slide.
Okay, the next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so this is a request, like Michael was saying, about an accessory apartment in a single-family dwelling. According to the zoning requirements in section 108 of the neighborhood and district, accessory apartment is allowed with special use permit. And Michael's saying we don't need the site plan approval now?
Did not need site plan approval, only the special use permit.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So, but we do need the area variance needed to go from 2 dwelling units per acre still, correct? To 2 dwelling units.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Because of the lot size.
Correct.
This is a, yep. So we're going to be getting that, I think, on the 18th, their next meeting. So I'll be going to that meeting, the ZBA meeting, to get that variance. Especially they were waiting on this DCWWA outcome. So they mentioned that in the meeting last time. So we'll have this in hand to present to them. This 1-bedroom accessory apartment meets the special use permit standards. I went over the attachment and it does satisfy that list. The changes to make this apartment were done internally to the dwelling. Hence, no setback revisions are needed. No major modifications to landscaping was done. Primary means of access to the lot remains the existing street. The profile of the dwelling has not changed and is consistent with the architecture of the area. The apartment and ample off-street parking is screened from the adjacent neighbors and public road. I can show that in pictures on the next slides. The apartment has been in existence for many years with no history of not even one nuisance complaint by anybody in that neighborhood. Now, like Michael was saying, the DCWWA has approved, they're saying that there is sufficient capacity. And what we realized, and I noticed last time, and I think we discussed briefly, is that there's currently many other homes in the greenfields that are registered as two families. And there are some single family dwellings with accessory apartments already. You can go to the next slide. So this is a picture of my house. It's a basic raised ranch. The top left is the front picture. The top right is the back of the house. It shows a deck and a addition that's been there. This is the bottom left picture. You could see that there's a door and a window on the bottom level. That's where the old two-car garages used to be. So the construction was done, the one bedroom, yes, exactly. The one bedroom is internally to the house where the attached two-car garage was. So we took out the two doors and we put there's a small living room. I'll show it in the outline on the next page. But this is just an image of the house. The profile hasn't changed. There's no new structures outside. It was just the garage space was converted to living space. This is on the bottom right is the driveway, which accommodates many cars. Can fit over 5 cars now. Go to the next slide, please. So this is the layout of the basic raised ranch house. The top level is on the bottom half of the image, and the lower level is on the upper portion of the drawing. You could see that. I don't know. Can you see my cursor or no? I guess no.
No.
Okay, so the yellow area is where the apartment is. So you come in from the driveway. Yeah, that's the door to get in. And there's a small living room right there. And there's a knee wall. Yep, there's a knee wall, small knee wall. Yes, right there. That's open to the small kitchen. And there's a door right there that goes into the rest of the house, which it's locked and there's insulation behind it. And then if you go back down to the front of the apartment, there's a bedroom and a bathroom. So it's a 1-bedroom bathroom. Yeah, so this on the right side is still part of the upstairs. So they have access to the lower level, half of the lower level. The 1-bedroom apartment is just in the outlined area.
It'd be the upper left corner, Neil. Yes, that's the bedroom.
Yes, yep, exactly. This is where it is. And this is where the 2-car garages were. That's the only thing that was changed. Okay. Any questions on this?
I think you submitted this materials before to everybody, just not in a PowerPoint, so there's probably not going to be a lot of questions.
Okay. And this is just my findings as far as these houses are registered as 2-family. So I'm not here to stir the pot or open a can of worms. I'm just saying that if I can't, and there's also some single family with accessory apartments. I think there's 1 or 2, but there's like 6 or 7 already 2-family houses, 2-family dwellings that are registered with Dutchess County. You could see them as 220 residential. They're 2 families. So I guess because when they went for their approval, I don't know when, they didn't go through the town board and the zoning and the ZBA that I'm going through right now. And this thing on the plot that they found during my, I would say, evolution of trying to get a permit. It is what it is. Okay, so I just wanted to point it out. That's all.
I will point out that, or I will add that the attorney to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Patrick Logan, has requested us a little bit of a search to see if there are any other 2-family or accessory apartment uses. I haven't spoken with them, but I don't know. I know that they found some, primarily because Mr. NESHEIWAT provided it. But we're not sure yet if those were legally approved or not. So there's no way, we don't have that information yet. But I believe that they're going to be looking for it at some point. Ms. Polidoro, when I call on you, you might have something to opine about that. I don't know. But at any rate, that's Mr. NESHEIWAT's presentation. He, as I said, amending the application from site plan and special use permit for a 2-family to an accessory apartment, which only requires special use permit. We'll be re-advertising this public hearing. We don't have to close this and just open a new one. We can just segue to the amended application public hearing. Does anybody have any questions for me or for Mr. NESHEIWAT? I don't see any.
Just that the last slide not be labeled two-family. Because you're changing your application from two-family to accessory apartment, maybe showing that slide at the public hearing where the first words are other two-family homes might be confusing to people, and they still think you're going for a two-family home. It's just a thought that hit me when I looked at that slide. I said, wait, I thought this
Right.
was accessory.
Well, the reason I bring that up is not
It's
to
just a suggestion.
logistically.
You can do what you want.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying because it would be a two-family, but the only way it could be a two-family is to have an accessory apartment. So they kind of,
But the meaning of accessory apartment is different.
okay, so
I
how
believe
should
it
they
has to
be labeled then?
Owner occupied, correct?
Yes.
I mean, it's a different, your eyes just open.
No, I'm just
That's
saying,
the
like, how do we
meaning,
know that
it has
those,
a different, it's not exactly the same as a two-family.
well, we're not sure if those owners of those houses are occupying those residences either, so.
Perhaps you could relabel it, Mr. NESHEIWAT, simply other unit or other structures, other single-family structures with apparent multifamily uses, something like that.
Yeah,
If that would satisfy.
be a better-
Multifamily means apartments. What I should say is with more than one structure. No, Tad? Tad, what do you prefer?
Multifamily is 3 or more units.
Right.
Whether they're apartments or, I don't know. And I'm not sure how to address the comment about the heading for the picture, but the designation of a 220 is an assessing code. It is not reflective necessarily of approvals that were granted. And there's no distinction from 220 as a two-family or 220 as an accessory apartment. They're both assessing wise two-family.
Or you could eliminate that slide.
That's where I was going, Ann.
Also, that slide might be appropriate at the zoning board where they have to consider character on the character of the community, just to show that whether legal or not, the community contains other similar uses. But for the planning board's perspective, consider whether it's relevant.
There you go.
What about
structures with, go ahead.
Sorry, existing owner occupied or non-owner occupied accessory apartment.
Structures with additional living unit uses.
Yeah.
Or maybe
How about
existing single-family dwelling unit?
Why
we don't know
not
if they're
just
two or accessory? Just say 2 or accessory unit. Accessory unit or 2 family.
or call it what the assessor calls it, classified as a 220?
But nobody knows what that means.
It's too,
Okay, I did not mean to make this a whole conversation. It was just that writing the two-family first pulled my attention, made me wonder, wait, is this a two-family or is this accessory? Sorry, I brought it up.
Well, I think the right way to do it is what is a 220 and what is a 210? What is that like with the town and legally named? What is that? What is the definitions of them?
210 is a single family and 220 is a two-family.
And they are assessing codes.
For assessment codes, what appears on the tax assessor's roll. It's a land use classification code.
Okay.
In other words, it's possible that at some point an assessor was told, hey, there's another apartment over there, and investigated and found it, but did not. So in other words, raise the tax rate on the two structures or two uses, but did not inform the town to say, is this approved or not? Because that's what tends to happen over time is people just assume, oh, this was done, but we never found out about it. Now we do. So let's increase the tax rate on it because there's two principal uses there, or two uses there.
Okay. I didn't I'm not mentioning it to get anybody in trouble or open a can of worms. I just did it so my defense is a little bit stronger. That's all. That's the whole meaning of it.
I got it. And as Ms. Polidoro was actually stating for you, it's probably speaking to the ZBA more than it is anybody else to say, look, approving this wouldn't change the character of the community necessarily because there are other instances where they already have an additional dwelling unit besides just the single one.
Okay, so I'll have two versions, one for you guys and one for the ZBA.
Ms. Polidoro, question about seeker. The ZBA there must be seeker done prior to this. However, this is not subject to seeker, I believe, correct?
I thought we had classified this as a type 2 action.
We have. I'm not sure we did it by resolution. That's what I was trying to find.
Okay, 1 second. Let me pull my notes. Resolution to classify. We classified it as a type 2 action under secret. So
Good. So the ZBA now is free to act
yes.
because seeker has been concluded. So unless there are any other comments from the board or consultants?
I just
Yep.
want to raise the issue, Mr. NESHEIWAT, that if the board approves the accessory apartment, there is going to be a condition that it be owner occupied within a certain period of time. We understand that, you know, it was created and this is an inherited situation.
Yep.
And that happens, but I just want you to understand that there will be a certain time period affixed to the approval. And if new people purchase it and they don't use the apartment, you know, they could lose it after that
Right.
time.
I agree with you. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for putting that into the record, Victoria. Anyone else? And there being no public comment tonight, making a motion to adjourn the public hearing to December 1st, 2021.
So moved, Diane Tenapoli.
Second, Rob Waters.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
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 Mr. NESHEIWAT, have a lovely Thanksgiving, and we'll see you at the very beginning of December.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Nay.
Next item is a workshop item. This is Belfield at Hyde Park. They're seeking approval from the town board for an amended concept plan. They're also seeking secret determination from the planning board, as well as there's a required recommendation by the planning board to the town board for whether we think that they should accept the amended concept plan or not. As noted, we had a site walk on the day of our last meeting, October 20th. A 4-hour one, but it was one that we all acknowledged in our last meeting. It was very helpful in terms of understanding the site much better. We also had an offline meeting with a non-quorum group to discuss how to move the project forward. And Mr. Boudreau has prepared a presentation tonight on the topics. Oh, Ms. Tantal, you're here too. Welcome. Larry's prepared something to deal with, or a presentation to deal with the 4 topics we held there. And Bonnie, before you're going to leave, I think shortly, did you have any comments? I know you've gone through this presentation. Do you have any comments that you want to add before you have to leave?
No, I think we're trying to find out ultimately where this is going to land, so that the planning board can make its recommendations to the town board. And we're just going through kind of a final list of what we see might be some outstanding items for seeker purposes.
Perfect.
Yeah, because that's going to be important. I know we still have fiscal and there's still some open items, so we'll characterize that in the memo that we'll send out.
I also, because we've had some refinements now within the amended concept plan, you'll be seeing those tonight. I think it might be appropriate to involve the public in now commenting on what we think is getting to be a closer and closer plan that we could wholeheartedly recommend to the town board. So I'll be asking probably to set a public hearing for the next meeting. Does that sound appropriate to you, Bonnie?
Yes.
Thank you. Okey-doke. Then I'll say we'll see you next meeting because you'll probably hop off while I'm not looking. So
Yeah, and
Larry,
about-
let me try.
yeah, and Adriana is here to listen in, so she'll fill me
Right.
in for discussions. Thank you.
So Larry, let me turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen, and if this doesn't work, I have Neil as a backup. Let's see here. Okay, everybody can see that?
Yes.
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 I'm going to go into a slideshow.
I'll add that before the meeting, I had sent these 4 topics as the areas of principal concern that I could see, because again, we're not looking into delving into deep reviews. This is not a site plan. This is a broad concept plan. So these are the areas that, after listening to my colleagues, as well as speaking to a couple of the town board members, seem to be the appropriate items of discussion. And I think we came to a lot of meeting of the minds here. So Larry, sorry I interrupted you.
Not a problem. Thanks very much. And that's exactly it. We met and we listened and we worked internally with our team, and we presented some ideas last Friday, and we went back and revised those. So I wanted to present them here. So these are the 4 topics, 1 through 4. What I've also included in this PowerPoint is a hyperlink to the drone photos, if that's something the board would like to see. I did send those out to everybody, but I can go over those if needed.
Larry, I think just because we're going to set a public hearing for 2 weeks from now, I think it'd be appropriate for you to show those in case that way the public might want to speak about them.
Okay, great. All right, so the first topic is the residential, non-residential ratio. When we spoke last week, I didn't have the square footages calculated out. So in this presentation, I have that done. Maximum building heights, we went ahead and worked with Hart-Howerton to actually reduce those. So we were at 51 and 59 in the village. We did go down to what we understood the board wanted, which was 46 feet for the multifamily. So again, that went from 51 to 59, 51/59 down to 46. And then along the Main Street, we had the same, and we went down to 48. So you'll see that in a minute. The setback, I think, as you were saying on the sidewalk, very helpful when you stood at the location of where the parking deck would be looking west. You really did see, the benefit of maintaining that buffer. So we knew right away that's something we had to work with you on. The program of the second phase is the same as we presented last week, except that we did actually pull in the educational component, because it's essentially that second phase wrapped around it, and it's basically there. So we pulled that in. That does change the ratios of that second phase a bit, and I can go over that. And then, of course, the drone photos. Okay, oops, wow, that's quick. So one. All right, so this was presented last week. 844 was the number as submitted, and we reduced that by 43 total residential units. Again, this is just focused on residential. The main decrease is from the 4 rent apartments, and that went down by 28 units. We do have, obviously, there's interest in Belfield. Developers are coming to us. They're telling us what they want. So effectively, we're reducing some of the units up on the terrace area because of the market unit type that we're being told. So the net of all that is minus 43 units, and that goes from 844 to 801. Now, what I've been doing over the last 3 days or so is working with Hart-Howerton. All their figures are updated with the 801 now, and I can show you where that actually occurred, which is what this figure is here. You can see a reduction in townhouse units here. We added some back here because they are a strong market item. So we decreased the cottage homes here. We decreased the apartments here. This building was an apartment building, and interestingly enough, the footprint of that building is about 10,000 square feet. So at our meeting last week, it was, hey, if you're going to lose that, see if you can pick it up in commercial, which we did. So now this shows not as a residential, but as a commercial. So that 10,000 square foot pickup, then would go into calculating the ratios. Again, the Hart-Howerton figures are all updated with all the neighborhoods, and again, I can go over that. But I did want to get to the ratios here. We submitted the 6238 by decreasing the apartments, and here's the calc for all the square footages. And then we add 10,000 square feet in the village neighborhood for commercial ad. The new ratio goes down from 62 to 60. And the revised commercial goes up from 38 to 40. And here's a summary, again, a deduction of unit of 43, so we're down to 801. And here's the square footage reduction. And then we did, of course, an add of 10,000. So the net is a deduct of 54, and the revised now based on all the impact we received at 60/40. Maximum building heights. Maximum building heights, we've been going over this quite a bit. And here's a summary of that. This is right out of the material that we submitted on September 29th. I put it in a spreadsheet. And so for the multiple dwellings, we were at 51 and 59 based on the roof type. And same thing for the mixed use. And in the Crescent neighborhood, it was 51. So these highlighted areas changed. So here's what we're proposing now. Instead of 51, 59, go down to 46. Instead of 51 in the Crescent, go down to 46. In the mixed use area, again, working with Hart Howerton, we were able to go down to 48. So, that's a significant reduction. And here's the, and the main reason why we got it wrong was because we weren't understanding, how to calculate the height based on the town code. So this was the full height. So now we, understood it and more appropriately applied it. And here it is here. So the average grade here, we're taking it there, and then midpoint of the roof. And Michael, you were right. You were, basically saying it's 46 feet. What are you doing? And we get it. So thank you very much. Here with this extra height in here, it calculates out to 48 feet. So instead of 51 or 59 down to 48. So again, a significant reduction.
If I could just interject a moment, Larry, in the illustration to the right, so two things. One, the maximum height for any building in Hyde Park is 35 feet. So we thought that because this is a different sort of entity, that being slightly higher than any building height we have in Hyde Park would be appropriate, particularly because there's going to be a lot of screening at this site, the depth that it goes back. But you originally proposed, say, for retail with 20 foot. So this has been lowered to 18 feet. This is how they were able to accommodate the different heights. Yep. And yes, the way that we determine the average grade, it's the midpoint between the lowest and the highest. So they've been using two different calculations, looking at the one side versus the other. And I said, it's not the way it is. It's always the middle of the average grade. So that's how that got calculated. And I'm hoping that the board will weigh in on these reduced height, because I know that was a concern before, as well as I'll be asking you when I call upon each of you to also opine on the new ratio. Thank you, Larry.
Okay. State Route 9 setback, again, setback, not a buffer, but again, when you're out there, you clearly see the benefit of it. And so we're in agreement with it. And these are the things that we talked about. Setback to remain vegetated, trim vines and remove invasive species, clean it up. Allow the significant trees to flourish. Uses within the setback, stormwater management, access drive, pedestrian trails, and then the front signage, the barn idea concept that we had that we've been showing on our plans.
Also, I'll just interject here again for a moment, Larry.
Yep.
When we were standing, for all of us who were at the site, which I think was most of us, I think a couple had to drop off because of how long this was the very end. We were looking at the drone height for the 2-layer or the 2-floor parking garage. And when we turned around, this included being with the supervisor and deputy supervisor, you could actually hear noise from Route 9 and you could see the traffic on Route 9. And I think that's what was persuasive to the applicants, including Larry and Tom, were that, if you had fields, you'd see even more of the cars, you hear even more of the sounds because it would just travel unattenuated through. So I think everyone present more or less agreed, without there being a formal agreement, that would be better to keep the setback intact. In addition, we also directed the applicant to look at the kind of similar vegetation that we're going for that is at the southwest corner of the new sake manufacturer, formerly ShopRite and then Stop and Shop. People who lived here for a while recall that for a while that was Sleeping Beauty-esque. You had to sort of machete your way through it. But once we looked at the code and the actual approval, it was supposed to stay in a natural state, but that doesn't mean that you have invasives, vines, killing trees, et cetera. So when Ms. Moss and I went out with the arborist to determine what to keep, we actually found there was a lot less to keep than what we thought, because vines, grapevines, Oriental bittersweet, et cetera, had killed things or made them such that they didn't have much life left. They were etiolated. So what we advised the applicants to do was to take a look at that and think in terms of the same mentality, a mowed area so that it looks as though it's somewhat manicured, but also with native species, significant trees left intact, et cetera. And I think that's what it's going to wind up looking like. Thanks, Larry.
Yep, correct. No, but again, the benefit was to get out there and see it, and then you realized it. Okay, so here on figure 1 of Hart Howerton's set, you can see that we went back and put in the vegetated area in the setback, the 150-foot setback. This also shows the townhouses up in it's both in the terrace and the ridge neighborhoods, and moves this area into here, which we'll see that later for commercial. Wanted to show this too because we pulled back in the 150-foot setback and the vegetation to remain. Clearly, you can see the benefit of it. Topic 4, the second phase, which we discussed this, and you can see here, unchanged from when we submitted on the 29th, except now we're pulling in really the parcel that's just immediately north of the hotel, and it's essentially there right now. So we pulled that in. What that does do, when you pull that into the numbers, 105, it changes this next phase, phase 2A, to a residential ratio of 48%, to a non-residential of 52%. And if there's no more questions, I can tag this and present the slides.
Sure.
All right, let's see if this will work. Don't worry. Oh, there it is. All right, I do have a backup. There we go. Took a while. It's a big file. All right, so this is the map that was given out to everybody who attended, and on this map we indicated the drone flight areas. So drone flight 1 was where the proposed second hotel is. Drone flight 2, location in the terrace neighborhood for the townhouses, and then drone flight 3, again in the terrace neighborhood townhouses. These are ridges that kind of punch out in a southwesterly direction along the Marici Kill. The drone flight number 5 was, well, 4 was in the Main Street area, and 5 is the parking garage. Okay, so Crescent Neighborhood Hotel site, this is 55 feet when all footage is based on existing grade, the location of the drone. The hotel site here is likely to be cut in 10 feet, but again, the average grade would apply. 55 feet is probably, at the, the 4th or 5th floor. But what this does show is the heights of the trees. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. You can see these trees here are probably, in the 60, 70 foot range. And so we're just spinning here 360. Here's 65 feet. Still the trees are a bit higher, but what you do is start to, this is a view west from that location. And 65 feet is very close to the top of the hotel. We do have 75 feet in the submittal document, so we did also go up to 75 feet. And you can see that we're getting above the tree line, or getting close to it. Okay, and there's 75 feet. What's interesting about this, this would be at the very top of the hotel. You can see the water tower on St. Andrews. You do see some of the west side. Again, this is the very top of the hotel. You do see some of the west side of the river there. Of course, the Catskills in the far ground. And this is spinning actually to the right, clockwise. And what's interesting here is that building there is part of Hudson Heritage right there. You see the top of that. And again, you see a little bit of the west side of the river. Beautiful day.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the water tower that you were showing not on St. Andrews, but actually in Poughkeepsie?
This is in Poughkeepsie.
And the first one, in the first slide, or when the first
No,
slides
the
we
first
saw,
slide,
75 feet, that's the St. Andrews?
Yes, it is. Yep.
I didn't realize we were that far away from it. I guess we really did walk deep into there. So, wow.
Because there's, this is the, the view here, the Catskills.
Yeah.
Beautiful Hudson Valley. That's why we're all here. That view. Again, so that's part of Hudson Heritage there, Poughkeepsie. All right, so this is drone site location number 2. We all remember going there. This area is outside of the 250-foot buffer of the wastewater treatment plant. Again, these trees here are pretty high. 50 feet doesn't get there. These could be, 80 plus. This would be the, top of the townhouse. And this is spinning clockwise. Okay, drone location number 3. Same thing, 50 feet high. townhouses. Again, these trees are, 80 plus. Again, so we're spinning. So this is drone location number 4, which is Main Street. We went 55 and then 65. At this location, the finished floor will be about 10 feet above grade. We have to do that to deal with the grade that we're cutting into the east side, managing that. So as we move west, we'll have a fill situation, and then we'll be catching up the grade on the west side. So effectively, this would be, you take 10 feet off of that, and it's really like 9 or 10. I checked the grading plan, the rough grading plan I did. So 9 or 10 feet, we'll say 9. So this essentially is about 46 feet from the finished floor of Main Street. And again, you can see where it is relative to the existing trees, which of course, they won't be there, but it gives you an idea. These same trees are over in the buffer, the setback, which will be remaining. So again, this is spinning around clockwise. Now we did go up to 65 feet. Of course, since we came down 10 feet over, from 59 to 46, this is really just above the building at this point. But even at this height, you can see what's going on. This was very helpful to do, this drone location number 5. Height of 26 feet at the approximate location of the parking garage. And as this spins around, and this one actually goes counterclockwise, and there it is, there we are down there. And you can start to see, the relevance of that buffer there, because that utility line right there, that's right at the 150 or close to it. So everything behind that is within the setback. But again, you can see the significance of it, and how, again, not only from the noise, but visually, how it would really soften up the view coming into the site. And that's it.
Thank you, Larry. It's funny to see 4 hours of our tour condensed down to 10 minutes, but that was the purpose of it in the first place.
Yep.
I think we can all agree that those are rather magnificent views, particularly when you get to see the hints of the river lapping over to the side. And yes, while the immediate trees in these sites will not be there, as Larry correctly pointed out, there are green buffer areas where trees of those heights will be staying.
Right.
So, in other words, it won't just be one big, vast, denuded site. And that's what was the purpose of us going there in the first place, was to see what the green elements were that would remain. You can see them sort of roughly inside the drawing here, areas that are to remain forested and natural. So I also want to just say that I want to thank all my colleagues, not just for walking, but when I look back on this, I've had sort of a variety of different two with me on each occasion. Most recently, to discuss these 4 topics that I said we needed to narrow down on, it was Chris Oliver and Stephanie Wasser, who both brought really great comments to the table that day. As always, in these offline meetings, no agreements are actually made. They're just sort of directions as where we think that we might get to a yes, and that's the important thing, is to get to a yes. So I myself like the way that you've neatly now lowered the heights, because I know that was a concern to the town board as well. I think that getting to the 60-40 ratio as opposed to the 63 or 62 and 38 is a big improvement. Of course, I like the buffer setbacks, as you're calling them, rather than the fields, because I think it's going to soften the view as well as attenuate sound. And I appreciate that you actually gave us what's actually going to be in phase 2. And now that we've seen the entirety, it looks as though your ratio is even better at 48 res and 52 non-res. So all those things make me happy, but let's hear from the rest of the board. And first, our consultants. Mr. Sotero, any comments?
No, I don't have any, Michael, at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Moss?
Yes, I noticed that the barn structure that's being referred to as the sign, not for the sign, is within a required setback where there are to be no structures. And it's also shown in phase 1, the existing phase for the existing hotel. I believe that needs to be addressed separately so that it can be accomplished.
Thank you. Well, a lot of this is a unique situation, maybe not unique, but because this is a planned development district, and even though there are sections of the code that apply to this district, or there are sections within the code that apply just to this district, they're largely rewriting the code for this district. I know Ms. Van Tile has, I think, successfully argued several times that the town board does have the ability to vary the ratio, as well as probably varying things like what could go into the initial setback. So we'll let that be handled legally. But those are good points, particularly if I didn't realize it was shown as part of phase 1. I thought we just had a sign holder that wasn't a barn.
Yeah, that's correct, but it is in the phase 1A, so.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. Good eyes, Ms. Moss. I didn't catch that one, sorry.
Is it
Ms. Polidoro.
intended to be in phase 1A?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just, that's the entrance, and so now we're dealing with it.
Okay. Any other comments, Victoria? Or
No
questions?
Nope, just it looks like we have an ambitious schedule ahead of us.
We do. So, thank you. Let me start by calling on Ms. Weiser. Ann?
Unmute myself. So thank you. Really appreciate the height reduction. I think that it's going to make a big difference to the just the feel of the area of the downtown. I've also a question on the multifamily. Are those still maximum 300 feet?
That's an interesting question because, we don't show anything 300 feet on the plan.
Oh.
Now, it's 300 feet when you go 150 or 180, turn 90 degrees and then go a little bit more. That's how we get to the 300 feet. There's no, vertical plane that's 300 feet long. The only place you'll find that is on the first and second hotels.
Great.
That's it. But nothing in the village.
Okay.
Right.
Because I was really concerned about a football length.
No, there's nothing. The longest building shown there, I think, is 250. That's the brewery.
Okay, great. So regarding the ratio of 60-40, I really appreciate, again, your taking a good hard look at this. I do know that the town board recommended 55-45. And I know that the law says it's supposed to be 50-50. So I think that they did argue in good faith to make the ratio 55-45. Is there a possibility to meet in the middle somehow? And you don't need to answer that right now.
Well, one thing that I could say is that, if the market comes to us and says we need more commercial, we'd like to have the opportunity to pull in another 10,000 square feet, which would help the ratio. We have, that 3 or 4 acre farm field, and we'll grab some of that to put 10,000, additional square footage there if the market is telling us that there's a demand for it. Absolutely. And that'll help the ratio. It won't get it down, but it'll get it closer to 59.
Okay, it's something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my only, again, thank you so much for taking a good hard look at those building heights. Matters.
And those were great comments. And something that Vice Chair Dexter has pointed out before is that, and I believe Tad agrees with this, in effect, by recommending that there's an approval of whatever the final revision is that we have on this, that we're basically looking at maximums that are allowed. Because a lot of this being market-based, and it took me a while to understand this. It was really Ann who talked about it, and it resonated in my head a while, that sometimes happen, my empty brain. But that if we approve, say, 60/40, but the market's not there for residential, the market's not there for commercial, as long as it's maintaining the 60/40 sort of overall percentage within there, they're fine. But you could, if there's more market demand for commercial, they are free to increase that dimension all they want to, because it was always said that in the code, that 50% of it, the maximum of 50% could be residential. So whatever the maximum is set, then they can sort of play around with that inside there. I hadn't thought about that because it's market-based, market demand-based. You would be able to say, oh, look, there's more demand for commercial right now. No, we're going back to the 60/40. Oh, wait, we're going to go to 55/45 even with more commercial. It's going to be based on somewhere and through the market demand and through there. So once I got that in my thick head, I appreciate that now. So I personally am more comfortable with the percentage there because I think that you will see fluctuations at various times based on demand. So thank you, Ann Dexter, for kind of pounding that through to me. Next comment, Mr. Waters, Rob?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. This exciting project. And thanks for listening to all the concerns. And also, I'm just reiterating, the market demand will allow more flexibility. And I thank you for that too. So, being able to accommodate maybe a better ratio. And that's pretty much it. It's very exciting. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Next member to speak, Vice Chair Dexter.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. I think Ms. Weiser pretty much covered where I'm coming from, but I do want to thank, my colleagues and the participants who kind of hammered through these last final, sticking points because, it's brilliant. I mean, just a little bit of, knock down a little bit here, a little bit there, change something around, take 10,000 here.
Yep.
All of a sudden you have a workable and agreeable concept. And I think the word is exciting. And that walk really cemented to me that site has a lot of very cool possibilities. So happy to participate and move it forward.
Just to, a quick note, at our meeting last week, we had the deduct in the apartments, the 28 units. And I didn't even think of, wow, we're losing that building because it's basically removing a building. Mm-hmm. And then at that meeting was said, well, you're removing one, why don't you put back commercial? And that was a really good idea because it helped adjust the ratio.
That's great. Again, thank you to everybody for just what must have been a wonderful, wonderful meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Oliver?
Again, thank you for the hard work. I'm sure you've been pretty busy, Larry. A few short days making all these adjustments. Yeah, I appreciate that extra 10,000 square feet in the
that was a great idea.
In the village, and I can't wait to see things start happening there. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
See, I think that meeting really does help us get to a meeting of the minds and the getting to yes, as we like to say. So, Ms. DiNapoli, comments?
Yes, as always. I too would like to add my thanks for all the hard work. Again, the site visit was absolutely essential, and we were truly blessed with such a beautiful day that we had. I'm better with the height and better with the ratio, and I do understand the flexibility. But where I do still have my concern is in the hotel, the second hotel that you are proposing. That's still a major concern, and I think it's something that really needs to be looked at in terms of the concept of what the maximum we are looking for versus minimum. I would never want to hammer you into one area, but, and I understand it's going to be market-based, but if the market does not call for that, what is being placed there? Is that going to be additional housing? And then if that's additional housing, how does that affect the ratio? So that is my main concern. And I'm sure at this point, Larry, you are so tired of hearing me say it every single meeting for I don't know how long. But aside from that, I am really excited, and I have always been excited about this project.
Thank you. But just to say, and I don't know if Tom's on the phone or not, but he and the Shaner team, I mean, this is what they do. And, you know, they're very confident in it. And, you know, no housing, it'll be a hotel. No, understood.
That is part of the whole concept in integrating residential with hospitality and the rest of the commercial. It all fits together. This was not a bunch of silos. This is a really integrated village to put it all together. So that hotel is very important to us.
But it's also the size of that hotel. I mean, that's a huge building in a small town. I mean, it's tremendous.
If the market justifies that, when we do the full feasibility after the first one, I think everyone will be happy to have those people in town to support the investors.
But separate from what the market can handle, I would say, bless you, if the market can handle it, that would be great. It's not the question only of can the market handle it, but does the town of Hyde Park residents, do they want a hotel that is that size that will accommodate 332 rooms?
One thing that it will have, you know, the conference, you know, center, you know, part of it, you know, place to, you know, bring, you know, people for, I mean, in fact, we were asked just today, you know, about doing an event like that. Where do you do it?
But why does that have to be the size? Can we not seriously look at limiting the height of the building?
Well,
and, and number
again, it is the max. Yeah.
I know.
It could be something different, sure.
But when you come back for the site plan, you know, I've been on the board long enough to know, yes, but it was agreed upon in the concept that we can go this high. And I was just trying to avoid having that discussion again, because you're tired of it, and Lord knows I know I'm tired of it.
So to just interject for a moment, the height of the building is going to be really up to a majority of the board. Because, you know, I've expressed my concerns too, although I also, going back once again to Ann Dexter, when she pointed out that the tallest building besides the CIA is that ugly water tower, this would be an improvement from looking across the river to see what I think will be an architecturally significant hotel, because I know my colleagues on the board. But because there's the mix of a maximum of 60 of residential as they're proposing now and 40 of commercial, if they choose, the applicants choose not, or there's no market demand for a hotel of 300 rooms within the building, and I believe 39 service villas for a total of 339 keys. If there's no market demand for that, they couldn't just put up housing. Right. They'd have to come back to any town board at the time to change the concept plan to therefore increase the residential. So if there's no market demand for that, and there's no market demand for any other commercial, they'd be stuck not putting up so much residential. In other words, it'd just be a smaller scaled back project because they'd have to stay within the maximum percentages. If someone disagrees with me, Ms. Vantal or Ms. Polidoro, please pop in now on that. But you're not allowed to vary too much further beyond that. Jennifer?
Yes, I totally agree. The ratio is the maximum and has to be maintained. So if you can't do it, you can't do it. And any request would have to come back to the town board, and that is a purely discretionary decision by the town board and would be preceded by extensive seeker review again. So we would be back having this conversation.
And that's one of the reasons why I was discussing the flexibility that's built within there and why Rob mentioned it as well, I think. Again, in my head, it was, okay, they're stuck with this and they've got to keep it and that's it. But that's not the case because you're establishing maximums. So indeed, if there is more market demand to live in the village in the future, they could go to a future town board and say, hey, we want to change this. It would trigger going back to us and the whole process would start over again. And I think it's important to not try to limit too much what goes on in the future. As several of my esteemed colleagues have pointed out, the original approved concept plan was for a different world, a different economy, a different everything. And it wasn't just COVID, although that helped speed it up, the sort of evolution of buying for where you touched it, felt it, smelled it, tried it on, et cetera, into dupe on the internet and then trying it on. And if you don't like it, sending it right back is different. I wish that we still had more retail because I thought it was fun to shop sometimes, but at the same time, the convenience of just doing it from your home makes it very acceptable and in some ways preferable for a lot of people. So, but it's still a good point because it is a very, very large structure. I think that when we get into the architectural details, we can sort of mitigate that. And that was also very good, Ann Weiser, when you talked about the 300 linear feet. I hadn't realized that either, that there was no structure that was proposed that was 300 feet wide. When you said it's just a continuous measurement as you go through articulations, I get it now. So thank you, Larry. And last but not least, Ms. Wasser?
Yes, thanks. First, I just want a quick question, Larry. You showed that you were adding 4 or 5 structures along the, I believe it was the terrace.
Yeah.
Were those cottages? What kind of homes were those? I didn't.
Townhouses.
You said.
Townhouses.
Oh, they're townhouses, so they're multi.
They're townhouses.
They're attached townhouses.
Yes,
They're
correct.
fourplexes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So that was my only question. I wanted to make sure I understood that. So, I was in that last conversation, so I sort of knew how close we were getting. The one new thing that I'm especially glad to see is the 60-40 ratio. I think this is the biggest project this board's going to approve, no matter how many years people are going to sit on this board. So it's very exciting to be part of it, despite all the meetings and the back and forth, and very excited about it. I agree with my colleagues' comments earlier on the height, the setback, and what was the other one? Oh, the ratio I talked about. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I officially went on the record supporting that and want to thank you for all your efforts. And this is going to be hugely, hugely additive to Hyde Park. It's going to change it in a good way and bring the kind of commercial I think that the residents are really looking for, restaurants and retail and something other than just the typical chain boxes we have, chain stores. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
And to follow on what Ms. Wasser said there, I personally am hoping that while there's not a lot of destination retail at the moment, I'm hoping that maybe the market demand will arise there, that once you get the site activated where you have people coming in to dine, experience some of the trails, et cetera, where you have coming in to have more experiences, including music, performances, et cetera, that maybe they'll be thinking, there'll be a thought by some retailer to go, you know what, I should be in the middle of that. I need to take advantage of those crowds walking around in between performances, in between something, because they can't just drink and eat all the time. So we never know what's going to happen. That's what's important about providing the flexibility to the applicant. So I guess you can see that it's not that I've changed my tune. It's just that I feel like we made requests and you accommodated them. So it's now time for us to accommodate your request. So that's why I'd like to set a public hearing for our next meeting on November the 17th, because I think it's time that we allow public comment so it can help shape anything else that needs to be refined within the overall concept plan again. I know that, as I've said, I've read, when I'm sent foolish Facebook comments, sometimes I read them. And some of the speculation that's out there, I read that this is a bait and switch. They're just going to put in Section 8 housing. And I'm like, what? What? Because someone saw multifamily. So maybe we need to start that dialogue with the public so we can assure them this is not any kind of housing that you are fearful of or anything else. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with Section 8 housing. It's just that this wouldn't be a location that would fit the criteria within the code. So it's time for us to set that movement going. Anybody else have any other comments or questions for the applicants? Okay, then may I get a motion to set a public hearing? I didn't put this in the
I'll make
so I
the
get-
motion. Chris
thank you,
Owens.
Chris. And Stephanie will
I'll second.
second. And will second.
Great.
We'll have a universal second. How's that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Nays or abstentions, there being none. So we will open a public hearing on the amended concept plan in 2 weeks. That should get us going. In the meantime, I am back in touch with Dr. Gardner about trying to get a memo for the fiscal impacts, et cetera, a detailed memo. He sent me a rather rough draft one. There was a little bit of miscommunication between us, but I've set us back on course. So we should have that well before the next public hearing to digest and discuss at the same meeting. Okey doke.
Okay, to give the board an update, I think I told you, Michael, the Corps did come out onto the property.
Yep.
They came out the day after we had 5 or 6 inches of rain. They ended up just taking a little bit more and then some flowing ditches, which they were flowing after that much rain. So I'm working with them to get the JD updated. So that's forthcoming.
That's great news, Larry, because that's also something that we need to have completed, just so everyone's aware prior to making a secret determination. That and really the fiscal impacts, I think, are mostly what we're looking at now. Visual impacts, I think we're mostly satisfied, particularly because the applicant has proposed keeping the buffer space or setback, as it's more properly called, because it will be, as I said, manicured. Remember, one of the criteria is an estate-like setting. And I think that you can see estates where there's woods outside and you drive up a long path and then see the castle, the schloss, whatever.
Yeah.
There's also ones where you can see, hints of the grand manor in the background, what you get a glimpse through trees and a rolling lawn, et cetera. And I think that's what we're really going for more here, which is appropriate because, again, this is a transition from an urban area into the small town area and then actually leave Hyde Park into the really rural area that we enjoy to our north, as well as to our east. So I want, go ahead.
That will involve getting into the DOT right away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll coordinate with them.
You will need a permit for that, but I don't think that's as big a permit as your perm 33. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, it won't be a problem. It won't be a problem.
So I think they'll probably be happier because the density of the vegetation may prevent some of the water flow that they want into the channelized basin ditch there. So at any rate, again, I want to thank the applicants sincerely because you listened to our concerns, you responded. That's how we move these things forward. And I'm confident that we're going to get to a position where we'll be making a recommendation to the town board shortly. Again, first we need to involve public input. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody.
If you need
Good night.
anything in advance,
Larry.
give us a buzz, okay?
Yeah, will do. Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
The next item on the agenda is a recommendation for a modernization, I guess I'll call it a replacement of existing signage for Speedway. This is the former Hess station that was rebranded as Speedway a while back. One of the first improvements I guess many people don't recall, but Ann and I do, and Chris, who grew up here, does. The Hess station was a squalid little nothing kiosk in the middle and all pumps, et cetera. And I remember when they first showed us, it was their standard model. And then I said, what about that one in the Hamptons? And they were like, oh, you want the Hamptons model? Here. And we got it. And I think it's looked much better ever since. And I'm very personally, I visit that site sometimes, not actually to even buy gas or even go inside the store. I look at the stormwater management ponds they have along the side and the bank down because that was a big issue. And I'm really proud of the work that was done by our board at the time back then. And I'm also proud that the applicants have maintained the site really well. They've maintained all the grasses. They do everything they're supposed to do there. It's a fueling station. I don't want to get too excited about it, but it's at the very entrance to our town. And I think it's nice that they've maintained it nicely. So at any rate, we had a recommendation from Ms. Moss. It doesn't really change a lot of the signage. It may be very subtle. But it's just enough that we need to have a recommendation from the board. Anyone have any comments or questions?
Nope.
I have.
Stephanie's going to introduce this resolution.
Great. Thank you, Neil. All right, resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3 A4D Speedway LLC, freestanding sign 3694 Albany Post Road, November 3rd, 2021, resolution 2021-42. Whereas, be it resolved, the board hereby recommends zoning administrator issue the sign permit for the speedway replacement face of the freestanding sign based on the sign permit application revised drawings dated September 28th, 2021.
I'll second it, Diane Tenapla.
I'll third that, NY.
Any further discussion? Everyone in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is Rite Aid signage. We discussed this with Ms. Forrest of Glody, or G&L Group, sorry, formerly Glody Signage, at the last meeting, and I got clear direction from the board to permit them more or less what we gave them for Chestnut Mobile across the way. However, when I did the measurements myself, mine varied slightly from Ms. Forrest's. I took a point that would be the closest to wherever the sign is. I took a point to measure from the entry from either 9G or Crum Elbow. These are two different wall signs they want us to grant bonuses to, dimensional bonuses to. I measured and got a slightly different amount. So it just means that Ms. Forrest will have to amend her application to the ZBA, asking for an increase from 17 inches that we can go up to actually 16.25 and 16.75, because my math was a little different than hers. And if you look at my measurements and divide by 20, you're going to see that you're going to get to 16.25 and 16.75. Other than that, we're prepared to go. I did, however, in reading the application, make note that the total cumulative sign area, which is allowed for any site, is 100 square feet. The applicants are seeking cumulative sign area of 239.375 square feet. I know it's a big building, but it's not that big a site. So in the resolution, I wrote it so that we direct Ms. Whitman to contact the chairperson of the ZBA to specifically say, we would like to comment on the rest of the variance applications included therein, because it's really a lot. That's more than double what we would allow any place else. And that just seems, I'm maybe opining too much here, but that seems excessive unless they can really justify it. Now, that noted, if you recall, Nancy at the last meeting, Ms. Forrest said, good, if I can get the increase to 17 inches, then I'm going to go back and see if I can talk them into more realistic signage, because the symbol they're proposing is 4.5 feet tall. That's the size of a teenager. I mean, come on, you're not that far back from the building. And further, as I pointed out, you see the Rite Aid that's on Hooker Avenue. And yes, it's not quite as tall, but it has a story and a half, and it's a little bit further or closer to the front of the building. But it's at any rate, the sign there, the sort of symbol they have, I measured it, and it's only 10 inches tall. Again, it's closer to the building, it's closer to the road, but the building itself that's set back looks to be about 14 inches tall, that's all. So I'm hoping we can come to a reasonable accommodation so that we don't wind up with Bed Bath & Beyond size letters on a building shouldn't have it that size. So anybody have any questions or comments before I introduce the resolution? No, I love my colleague.
No, just thank you for that in-depth. I really appreciate that. That's above and beyond.
Isn't that what we all do here? A 4-hour site walk? Come on. Resolution granting discretionary bonus to increase maximum size of letter, symbol, or graphic pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.2 F2. Rate Pharmacy 1 Crum Elbow Road, Hyde Park, New York. November 3rd, 2021, Resolution 2021-36. Whereas, and whereas, now therefore be it resolved, the board makes the following findings to permit a maximum letter size of 16.25 inches in height and a maximum of symbol size in any direction from 10 inches to 16.25 inches and an increase of 1 inch for the word pharmacy for the proposed wall sign facing the intersection of 9G and Crum Elbow Road based on an approximate distance of 125 feet from the entry located on Crum Elbow Road. And be it further resolved that the board makes the following findings to permit a maximum letter size of 16.75 inches in height and a maximum of symbol size in any direction from 10 inches to 16.75 inches, and for the proposed wall sign facing Route 9G based on an approximate distance of 135 feet. 1, the additional size of the symbols is appropriate given their relationship to the size of the building and a corresponding aesthetic merit. 2, the increase in size for the letter height is appropriate due to the size of the building upon which the wall signs are being placed. Be it further resolved that the board hereby grants the applicant the required sign bonuses, and be it further resolved that the planning board directs the secretary to contact the chairperson of the ZBA to ask that they request planning board comments on the applicant's remaining variance requests. Do I have a second?
Yes, Stephanie Wasser, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Waters, this being your first time, I don't really read resolutions very often, but when I do, I tend to speak very quickly because they're long. That's what you'll discover is I went to the Ethel Woods School of, fast reading or something.
Gotcha.
It's only when they're long, I promise. The next item on the agenda is further discussion of local law G. This is an amended version of our rural events venues. At our last meeting, I hadn't had the opportunity to go through it. I have now. It looks as though they've probably picked up 95% of our comments. So did anybody else have a chance to go through it? And do anybody want to offer any specific comments? Just raise your hand and I'll call on you. So what I probably need tonight then is a motion to write a letter to send our comments. That's basically going to be, we appreciate that you did X, X, and X. We're wondering why you didn't do Y, Y, and Y, because they didn't offer any justification for things. I know in talking to Bonnie, because it was Bonnie who rewrote it, she did take into account almost everything we had to say. One of my questions is why would you exclude concerts from a rural event venue? And her response was, if you recall, there was another special event venue that was going to cover concerts. So in other words, if you propose a concert, even if you have a rural event, if you have a place that's been approved for rural events, you'd also have to go through the special events law. So I'm not sure I completely understood that, but that was her comment. So at any rate, may I get a motion to authorize me to send comments to the town board?
Make that motion, Chris Oliver.
Thank you.
Seconded, Diane Tenapoli.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is we can set our planning board meeting dates for 2022 because our secretary is ruthlessly efficient. Ms. Whitman gets us going every time.
Yes, she is.
We're going to need to set public hearings soon in beyond January. It's getting to that point. So
No, it's true. This is why it's so efficient that you do this. So at
Make
any
that
rate,
motion to approve.
thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Is there a second?
Diane Tenapoli, seconded.
All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now we have a motion to release escrow. And because this is a little bit lengthy, I'm going to introduce this one as well. This is resolution 21-E, November 3rd, 2021. Making a motion to return escrow amounts for the following projects, and the following amounts is shown on this chart. And that would be Al's Garage, Bellafield Hotel Subdivision, Belvedere, New Belvedere 2016, Cardinal Used Auto Parts, DC Bosse's, Dodic, Enclave Solar Farm, Hyde Park Town Center Park Plaza, Sire Ground Mounted Solar, Small 148 Cream Street. That, by the way, will be coming in as a revised application. Verizon 113 South Quaker and Verizon Tower Anderson. Any questions or comments on these amounts?
Second, Vice Chair Dexter.
Thank you, Ann. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to adjourn. Making a motion to do so.
I'll make that motion, Chris Oliver.
Thank you, Chris.
Second, Dan Dexter.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 We're officially adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Good night.
Sounds good.
Good night.
Bye.